He thought he could intimidate her, humiliate her, break her. But he had no idea who he was dealing with. What started as a minor parking lot run-in was about to turn into something he never saw coming. Drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe. The heavy back echoed with every punch. Fists pounding, sweat pouring, Ronda didn't stop. She never did. Her muscles burned, but that was routine. The pain, the focus, the rhythm, it was all part of the discipline. That night's training session was just like the others, intense, structured, controlled. Exactly how she liked it. After wrapping up, she paused for a breath. The gym was nearly empty now, just a few regulars finishing up. She gave a nod to one of the trainers, grabbed her bag, and stepped outside. The cool night air hit her skin, a sharp contrast to the gym's heat. She adjusted her duffel, rolled her shoulders, and headed to her car. On the drive home, she debated a snack, something quick. Cooking wasn't on the menu tonight. She spotted a small convenience store. Perfect. In and out. The parking lot was quiet. Just a few cars. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. She parked near the front, got out, and walked in with the calm, confident stride that was second nature. Inside, just a bored cashier behind the counter, scrolling his phone. A couple slow-moving customers in the aisles. She went straight to the fridge, grabbed a water, then picked up a protein bar from the shelf. But as she placed them on the counter, something shifted. A feeling. A presence. She felt it before she saw it. Years of combat had sharpened her instincts. Someone was watching. She paid, didn't look back, and stepped outside. And there he was. Standing by her car. Still. Waiting. He was tall, broad, with a rough look and tense posture. The kind of tension that wasn't just physical, it was personal. She knew that stance. She knew that look. His hands were clenched. His eyes locked onto hers. And in that moment, the whole parking lot felt like it shrunk. He smirked. Not the friendly kind. The kind that said, "I've already won." But Ronda didn't flinch. She'd seen men like him before. The type who thought being strong meant being feared. The type who thought women alone were targets. He stepped forward, slow, deliberate. His eyes scanned her like he was sizing her up. The smirk widened. Still, she didn't move. He spoke, casual, arrogant. Testing. But she stayed silent. When she didn't react, his confidence cracked. Just a little. Then he made his move, stepping directly into her path. Too close. Too bold. The energy shifted. No more guessing where this was headed. She knew the pattern. It always started with the words. Then came the intimidation. And if you let it, escalation. He stood over her now, trying to dominate with body language. But she stood still. Calm. Controlled. Eyes locked. And not backing down. Not even a little. She had no intention of playing his twisted little game. But she wasn't stepping back either. That's never been who she was. His smirk returned, slower this time, like he was entertained by her silence. He expected fear. Hesitation. A crack in her armor. But Ronda gave him nothing. And that nothing, it got under his skin. His eyes scanned her again, like she was some puzzle he couldn't figure out. When she still didn't react, he scoffed under his breath, frustration creeping in. His stance shifted, just slightly. Weight shifted to his heels. Fingers flexing, curling into fists. She saw it all. Every twitch, every micro-movement. Her instincts were razor sharp. And they were all saying the same thing, he's dangerous. Not because he was stronger, but because he thought he was. Then came the words. Sharp. Condescending. Each one thrown like a jab, meant to test her. Insults. Provocations. as if her refusal to acknowledge him was some kind of insult to his pride. But she stayed silent. Not because she was afraid, because she knew exactly how this game worked. He wanted a reaction, a reason to escalate. She wasn't giving him that. But then he moved, stepped fully into her path, blocked her. The shift in the air was instant, heavy. His smirk was gone now, replaced by something colder. His breath quickened, pupils blown wide. Anger, frustration, entitlement. She read him like an opponent in the cage. Too much weight on one leg. Dominant side overcommit. If he moved, she'd see it coming. And he did. A hard shove. Palm to her shoulder, quick, meant to throw her off. She barely moved. That threw him off. He expected her to stumble, maybe fall. But she stood solid. And now he was rattled. His face twisted. Anger, confusion, mixed. He lunged again, this time trying to grab her. That was mistake number 2. Ronda didn't think. She just moved. Her hand shot out, caught his wrist midair, twisted hard. Pain surged through him. He gasped, body jolting. He swung his other hand at her face, wild, sloppy. She ducked. His punch sliced through empty space. He was exposed. Wide open. That was all she needed. She stepped in, hooked her foot behind his leg, and swept. One smooth motion. He was airborne, then crashing down, hard. The sound of his body hitting the pavement cut through the night. A noise escaped him, half gasp, half grunt. Stunned. Winded. He lay there, blinking, trying to figure out what just happened. And now, people were watching. Customers had turned. Phones came out. The parking lot felt different. The air charged with attention. But Ronda didn't move. Didn't attack. She just stood there, calm, steady, waiting. He groaned, rolled onto his side. His face twisted in disbelief. He still didn't get it. He thought it was over. It wasn't. Because he wasn't finished. And neither was she. He pushed himself up slowly, palms scraping the pavement. His breath ragged. His body screaming. His mind racing. He wasn't used to this. He wasn't used to losing. Especially not to someone he had already written off as weak. That was his mistake. He decided who she was, before he ever knew what she was capable of. Ronda didn't flinch. She stood tall, loose, ready, like a fighter who hadn't even started round 1 yet. Nothing about her had changed. No triumph, no anger, no fear. She was just standing there, calm, steady, waiting to see if he'd make the mistake of trying again. He had a choice. He could walk away. But men like him never did. His pride was bruised. His control shattered. And now there were witnesses. Phones out. Eyes on him. Strangers judging what they saw. A man like that couldn't let this moment exist. He had to erase it. Take back control. So he snapped. His body moved before his mind could catch up. He lunged, fists clenched, rage in his eyes, driven by the need to make her regret humiliating him. But Ronda saw it all before it even began. His balance was off. His footwork sloppy. This wasn't an attack, it was an outburst. She didn't retreat. She stepped into it. Caught his arm midair. Redirected his momentum, twisted hard, his own force turning against him. Pain hit him instantly. His knees buckled, trying to compensate. Too late. She shifted. A pivot. A brutal takedown. The pavement met him again, harder this time. His skull hit the asphalt with a sickening thud. And this time, he didn't bounce back. He lay there, blinking, disoriented. The crowd around them wasn't just watching anymore, they were invested. Murmurs. Gasps. Disbelief. Phone still recording. The air had changed. He groaned, tried to roll over. His limbs heavy, vision blurry. The fight was gone. Because the truth had hit harder than the pavement. He wasn't built for this. He was built for fear. For bluffing. For expecting people to back down. But Ronda hadn't. She hadn't begged. Hadn't run. Hadn't even given him a reason. She just ended it. Clean. Fast. Unapologetic. She let out a slow breath, hands loose at her sides. She knew this moment. The one where the story could end, if he let it. He didn't. Still lying on the ground, he let out a growl. Weak, frustrated. He tried to rise again, but this time his movements lacked conviction. He looked up at her, resentment in his eyes. But behind it, for the first time, there was something else. Hesitation. His chest rose and fell in sharp, shallow gasps. He glanced around and finally saw the phones. All those strangers capturing his failure in real time. He had thought this was a private moment. But now it was public. Now he had no control. Ronda stood still, watching. One last chance. One moment to walk away. And for a heartbeat, it looked like he might. But pride roared louder than reason. He snarled, and his hand shot toward his pocket. That was it. She didn't hesitate. No waiting. No guessing. She stepped forward. Struck hard at his forearm, knocking his hand away mid-reach. Something metal clattered to the pavement. A knife. The crowd reacted, sharp breaths, curses under their breath. Someone stepped back. Ronda didn't. She was already moving. Her knee drove into his chest, his body snapped backward, the air ripped from his lungs. Then she was on him. Shifted position. Locked his arm. Tight. Unbreakable. He struggled, jerky, panicked. But it was useless. This was over. It should have been over long ago. And then, sirens. Far at first. Then closer. The noise sliced through the night. The parking lot shifted again. Bystanders exchanged looks. Phones still up. Feet shuffling. Everyone realizing they weren't just witnessing a fight anymore. This was something else. Ronda stayed where she was. Firm. Focused. Keeping him pinned. Because until the police arrived, she wasn't taking any chances. Her grip remained steady, firm, but controlled. Beneath her, his body was still rigid, chest heaving in shallow, uneven bursts. But the fight was gone. It had left him several moves ago. His limbs had slackened. His jaw was clenched so tightly the veins in his neck bulged like cords. He wasn't resisting anymore. Because there was nothing left to resist. He had lost. The red and blue flash of police lights danced across the surrounding buildings as squad cars pulled into the lot. Tires screeched slightly as the first cruiser came to a stop. Doors flung open. Officers emerged quickly, alert, deliberate, hands hovering close to their holsters as they scanned the scene. Two of them locked eyes with Ronda immediately, their attention flicking to the man beneath her, then to the knife lying inches from his outstretched hand. Step back, one officer ordered, voice sharp, unmistakably in charge. Without hesitation, Ronda released her hold and rose in a smooth, practiced motion. She took a single step back, her hands lifting slightly, not in surrender, but as a calm signal of compliance. She knew the drill. She knew how quickly misunderstandings could spiral in situations like this. This wasn't the moment for pride. It was the moment for clarity. The man on the ground groaned, rolling onto his side. one arm wrapped protectively around his ribs, his face twisted in a grimace of pain and simmering rage. But this time, he didn't look at Ronda. He kept his gaze glued to the pavement, jaw tight, shoulders trembling, not from fear, but from humiliation. The officers moved quickly now. One kicked the knife safely out of reach, bagging it as evidence. Another stepped between Ronda and the man, his posture rigid, as if bracing for the possibility of round two. A third officer, a woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense face, approached Ronda, studying her calmly. There was a flicker of recognition in the officer's eyes. She knew who Ronda was. "What happened here?" she asked, voice firm but professional. Ronda answered clearly, her tone steady, her words precise. She walked him through it, from the initial confrontation to the escalation, from his shove to the final takedown. She explained how she never threw the first strike. How everything she did was a direct response to his aggression. Self-defense. Nothing more. The officer listened closely, her gaze unwavering, searching for cracks in the story. But Ronda wasn't hiding anything. There were no cracks. Meanwhile, another officer turned to the growing circle of bystanders. "Did anyone see what happened?" A brief pause. Then a voice cut through the quiet. A woman stepped forward slightly, holding up her phone. "I got most of it on video." That changed everything. The officers shifted instantly, now focused on collecting evidence. Phones were handed over, clips reviewed. What unfolded on screen was clear and impossible to deny. The man's aggression. The shove. The attempted punch. The moment he reached for the knife. It was all there. Raw, unfiltered, undeniable. It didn't take long. The man was hauled to his feet. His arms twisted behind his back, wrists locked in cuffs. His face was flushed red, not from exertion, but from the unbearable weight of shame. He resisted for a heartbeat and then stopped. There was no use. "You're under arrest for assault and attempted assault with a deadly weapon," an officer stated, his voice even, steady. "You have the right to remain silent." "I didn't do anything," the man shouted, cutting him off. His voice cracked with desperation. "She attacked me. She set me up. This is. But the officer kept going, reading him his rights, unfazed. Ronda didn't move. Didn't blink. She had seen this before, the frantic scramble to rewrite the truth, to cast blame, to reclaim control after losing it. But it was too late. There were witnesses. There was video. There was proof. As they led him toward the patrol car, his voice grew more frantic, more erratic. He thrashed once. Then again. But the officers held him firmly. And finally, his eyes found Ronda. Filled with fury. Burning with resentment. "You think you can just do this?" he spat. "You think you'll get away with this? This isn't over. You'll see." But Ronda met his glare with complete indifference. She didn't flinch. Didn't even acknowledge the threat. He wasn't worth the energy. The door slammed shut. His shouting faded into a muffled echo behind metal and glass. The same female officer who had questioned her stepped forward again. This time, her expression had softened slightly. A subtle nod. Barely visible. But meaningful. "You're free to go," she said simply. Ronda nodded once. No thanks. No dramatic exit. Just a quiet acknowledgement. Because this was how it was supposed to end. Not in chaos. Not in tragedy. But in justice. As officers gathered final statements and gently dispersed the remaining onlookers, Ronda finally turned toward her car. The tension that had coiled in her shoulders all night began to ease, just slightly. The chaos was over. The night had shifted back into something quieter, something familiar. The air was still cool. The neon signs still buzzed overhead, casting their pale glow on the cracked pavement. The city hadn't stopped. The world was still moving. She opened the car door, slid into the driver's seat, and closed it behind her with a soft click. For a long moment, she just sat there, hands resting on the steering wheel, jaw unclenched, her breathing steadying. She hadn't planned for any of this. A late-night stop for water and a protein bar had turned into something else entirely. But she hadn't let it change her. She had walked into that moment as herself, and she had walked out the same way. The low hum of the engine filled the quiet interior as she started the car. In the rearview mirror, red and blue lights still danced, flashing in rhythm like fading echoes of what had just happened. Police voices and crackling radio chatter drifted through the air outside as the final pieces of the scene were wrapped up. She could still see the squad car, parked nearby. Inside, the man sat behind the glass, caged now, restrained. His rage, once explosive, had withered. No more shouting. No more lunging. Just the weight of reality pressing down on him. Ronda exhaled, slow and deliberate, as the adrenaline began to ebb. Her body had been trained for this. Her mind conditioned to act with precision under pressure. But even now, in the quiet aftermath, she could feel the ripples of the encounter moving through her, settling into her muscles like a slow, cold tide. She rolled her shoulders, trying to release the stiffness, then caught her reflection in the rearview mirror. Her face was calm, steady, but her eyes? Still alert, still scanning. Not out of fear, out of awareness. This hadn't been her first confrontation with someone like him. And, sadly, it probably wouldn't be the last. She had seen that look before, the kind of man who thought power came from volume, from violence, from size. Who believed his anger gave him the right to control a moment, to take up space that wasn't his. But tonight, he had chosen the wrong person. She let out a small breath of dark humor, shaking her head. Because the truth was, most women don't get that chance. Most don't have the training. Most don't have the instinct. And far too many don't get the opportunity to stop it before it turns into something worse. That was the heaviest part of all. Not the fight. Not the bruises she didn't get. But the realization that so many others wouldn't be able to say the same. She knew what the world would say next. Some would call her lucky. Some would make excuses for him, say he was just having a bad day, that it was a misunderstanding, that maybe she provoked him. Others would say she should have just walked away. Let him feel in control. Let it go. But that's not who she was. That's not how she lived. She was built to stand her ground. Not just to endure, but to fight back. Her mind drifted to the moment he reached for that knife. How his face twisted with desperation. How his body moved on instinct, unaware of what would come next. If she hadn't acted as fast as she did, she cut the thought off. It didn't matter. Because she had acted. And she had won. The red and blue lights in her mirror began to dim as the police car rolled out of the lot, taking him with it. Gone. For now. She knew he'd probably try to spin it. Tell a different version. Hire someone to defend his story. Make himself look like the victim. But it wouldn't work. There were witnesses. There was video. And there was the truth. Her hand reached for the gear shift, ready to finally drive away. But she paused, just for a moment. Because this wasn't just about tonight. And it wasn't just about her. She thought about the other women out there. The ones who didn't get to walk away. The ones who didn't have her strength. The ones the world failed to protect. She knew she couldn't fix it all, not alone. Not overnight. But she also knew one thing for sure. She would never be a silent bystander. Not in her life. Not in anyone else's. The engine murmured softly as she pulled out of the lot, smooth and composed. The street ahead was quiet. The shadows long. The world was still turning. She had walked into that moment as herself. And she left it with more than just her dignity. She left with a reminder. a responsibility. And next time, if the world tried to push back again, she'd be ready. If this story moved you, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Check out the rest of our videos for more stories that matter. And if you think someone needs to hear this, share it. Thanks for watching.